Hey, what's up, everybody? To me, when it comes to caricatures, there's no subject matter that beats old men. There's just something about the ability to manipulate the expressions and the various features that are present in typical old men that just makes them the best, in my opinion. Now, a couple months ago, I was skimming through Instagram, looking at some pictures by my buddies Josh Arroyo and Timmy Yusuf. If you're not familiar with them, get familiar. They're both incredible carvers, great artists, and they both have their own take on old men that is phenomenal. But I was looking at theirs, and most of theirs were happy and jolly old men, and I happened to think maybe a grumpy old man would be a good subject. So I sat down and sketched up a quick pattern for a bust. If you're interested in that pattern, look down below in the description. There's a link to my Patreon. The pattern is free, there for the taking. If you want to drop me a buck or two, I greatly appreciate it. But there's no obligation to do that. But I sketched up that pattern, cut it out that day, and started hacking away. And I ended up making this guy here. As you can see there, I left a little bit of room for some writing on the front there. Make whatever you want, but that's what we're going to work on today. Is this little pattern here? I think you'll like it. Stick around, and I'll show you how to make this guy come to life. All right, so here is that pattern I was talking about earlier. If anybody wants to take a look at it, this is the bandsaw cutout that you're going to get. It's roughly 5 inches tall, 3 inches wide, and this is out of 2-inch thick stock. So this is the piece you're going to end up with once you get it cut out. And the first thing we're going to do is just rough out. We want to isolate the head and the neck area here. Get that tapered down. We want to thin this head down just a touch. So I'm going to just kind of make a reference mark all the way around the head about, I don't know, about like that. That's about how wide we're going to end up making this head. And you can also, while we're making these reference marks, mark yourself a center line here, just a rough approximation of it. It doesn't have to be dead center. We just want to get in the ballpark, and we'll do that pretty much over all the areas that we're going to be cutting on. So roughing a piece like this in, I find it very helpful to start with a fairly large gouge. Whatever you have, I'm actually going to start with this 5/8 inch number 9, and really and truly all I'm going to do is start right here at the neck, and we just want to get that area thinned down. And the neck is actually going to be thinner than the head, so we can remove a good bit of wood right here. And what I'm going to do is basically, now that y'all kind of see the process, I'm going to buzz through this so that you don't have to sit and watch this for forever. All right, that's a start. We're going to need to take a lot more out of here, but we will get there. All right, so let's go ahead and get this head shaped down, get it thinned down. And now that I look at it, that might be a little bit thinner than I want to go initially, because I want this guy to have some some big old ears sticking out. So let's redraw our line, just make that head a little bit wider. And I'm going to showcase, I've talked about it on the channel before, but I got to bear in mind for somebody out there, this is their first video. I'm going to use, this is the Badger State Blades 1-inch eraser. And as you can see, this one's got a bullnose grind on it. I have found that I have a use for this tool on pretty much every project I do. And it's one of the best rough out tools that I've ever used on these big chunky bandsaw cutouts. You know, if you're buying a rough out that's been shaped by a duplicator to pretty closely match the original piece, this may not be quite as useful of a tool if that's all you're carving. But I don't carve a lot of rough outs. Don't have anything against them. I just prefer to paddle my own canoe in that regard and do my own designs. But this tool isn't as hard on my hands as a big rough out knife is, and I can I can continue to take big quarter-sized chips off in angles that I can't really get to as well with a knife. So if you're on the fence about one of these tools, let me tell you right now, you will not regret it. Get yourself one. And I say that, again, let me mention that I am friends with Ashton at Badger State Blades, but I do not get any kind of kickbacks for promoting their products. I do have a discount code available to my followers. It's just Jonathan, Jonathan, and the number 10. Get yourself 10% off at checkout. But again, that's not any kind of an affiliate link. I don't get anything from that other than promoting a quality product. So go out there, go visit badgerstateblades.com, get yourself one. All right, we got the head about the size we want. Now I'm gonna start shaping this body a little bit. And I want to give this guy kind of a pretty good paunch right there on his belly. And I'm gonna start that with just a number 9 here. We're gonna shape our way around. And then I'm gonna grab this soft V. This is a 1/2-inch soft V for those of you who are curious. We just want to trace around that belly. Give ourselves plenty of wood there to work with. And then we can start shaping this body. I'm gonna go back to that eraser. And I'm carving towards that center line. Of course I want that center line to be the high point here, the high spot on this on the torso. Not worried too much about any cut marks in the neck area there at this point. We got to remove a lot more wood there down the road. And I'm really not looking to get too close to the finished shape yet. I just want to get some of this wood off here, one, so it's easier to hold, and two, so I can visualize the finished product better. You can do all of this with a knife very easily. I just prefer the eraser tool here. All right, let's clean up a little bit. Right here around the neck, get rid of some of those gouge marks. And start shaping that neck in the process. All right, that gets us in the ballpark. So let's start identifying the features we know we want. So the ears, we're going to box in. Let's make ourselves a reference line, and I'm just using my finger as a gauge. The general rule of thumb, of course, is the ears, the front of the ear should be about the midpoint of the neck, but as you can tell, this posture is highly exaggerated. That one needs to move forward just a touch. So don't really have that as much to go by. I'm just going to kind of sketch in where it looks right to me. And I'm going to sight kind of down, and I can kind of rock it back and forth and get a pretty good approximation, make sure that they're close to the same. I'm going to take the soft V and just go ahead and isolate those. And I'm aiming for that original line that I made. This guy's going to have some big ears. Now that I've got that gouge line, I can get this evened up a little bit better. That's pretty close. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing on the back of the ears. All I'm doing here is just getting that wood isolated. And with these tools, you can always, especially with this soft V, you can lay it to the side and use that wing kind of as a chisel flatten the back of that head off a little bit. Do the same thing on this side. We're pretty close to even. Now I'm just going to trim his wood on the face back to the ear. There we go, that's pretty good. Let's get this side the same way. That's pretty close. We've got a lot of wood yet to remove. No need to worry about making these super even. Now I know I want a pretty sizable nose on this guy, and I want to leave the cheeks pretty full. I'm just going to start tapering basically the upper part of this head back. And then we need to figure out where the tops and the bottoms of the ears are going to go. So the top of the ear should roughly be about the eye line. I can see this ear is a whole lot wider than the other one. I'm going to trim that back just a touch, even those up-ish. And then, again, just going to use that soft V. Just get the top of that ear blocked in. Same thing on this side. Make sure they're even-ish. And then the bottom of the ear should be about the bottom of the nose, but with this guy, I'm actually going to make these ears a little more droopy. I'm going to bring them down about like so. Something in that ballpark. Now we can kind of start rounding off the back of the head. Again, I don't have anything set in stone yet. I am just kind of roughing everything in. That's a pretty good start. So we know the jawline is going to start at about the front corner of the ear, somewhere about right there. Again, I'm just going to use the soft V. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna grab this number 11 or number 9 here. I'm just gonna kind of create that jawline. And while I'm doing that, I can also be rounding over the neck on the front here. We got a lot of shaping yet to do on this neck. I'm not getting too bogged down in it yet. Again, this guy's heavily exaggerated. So that neck is going to be pretty thin once it's all said and done. And then I'm going to shape the back of the cranium right here. I just want right from the back side of the ear around. I'm gonna grab that soft V. And just there we go. These ears may end up being wider than I want, but I can always trim them down the road sometime, as long as I got the wood there to work with. All right. So let's start shaping this face out. You know, the bottom of the nose is already isolated. Don't have to do anything there, but I'm still going to do my wings here. Again, this nose is going to be pretty wide. That may actually be a touch wider than I want at this point. So let's trim that up just a hair. I'm not going too far with it. I think that looks a little bit better. So let's give ourselves some wings. And we'll come in just a bit more. The good thing about, and I'll fully admit, I am one of the world's worst at this, about drawing reference lines. I started doing it more when I started filming some of these projects, just because it makes it easier for you guys to see. But as my buddy Alan Goodman taught me a while back in a class, the pencil is just another tool in the box. And the good thing about it, it's not permanent. You can sketch in those lines, see what you like, what you don't like, and nothing's set in stone there. It's easy to just skim those pencil marks off and try it again somewhere else if you don't like what you see. So take advantage of the pencil. Again, just consider it as another tool in the box. I know for this guy, I'm going to want some pretty heavy brows. So I'm just going to do, and I'm also starting to shape these eye channels for him. That's one thing I like about, this is the the Cutty Sark knife from Badger State Blades. It's a profile they just released recently. One thing I really like about it is with this finer tip, I can do these roll cuts extremely easily and start setting myself up for those eye channels down the road. Just kind of even the nose up a bit. Let's see now where my eyes are being played with. There we go. That's a little better. All right. We can continue shaping this head. We know the top of the head's going to be round. And I actually want to bring in the sides of the head a fair bit here. I want it narrower. Man, that's hard to say. More narrow on top. Again, just because I'm looking for exaggeration here. And as you can see, I'm not worrying too much about where I laid those ears out initially. I'm going to do all my final cuts with them down the road. I just wanted to get that wood isolated so I would have it for when I need it. But I am going to start tapering them down to the face a bit so that I can see what it looks like at this point and kind of be able to determine how much I want to trim down the road. I really want to get this chest area pushed back so that belly stands out more. And this guy's not going to have very broad shoulders. I want to taper those down a good bit as well. All right. Let's figure out what kind of still see something with the nose. It wasn't quite right. Let's get that even-ish. All right. Let's figure out what kind of expression we want from this guy. I think I'm going to make him possibly holding, chomp down on a big fat stogie. So this line, of course, is going to be pulled up a little bit. This laugh line, smile line, however you want to call it. I'm doing that with the knife now, but you could easily use like a smaller gouge. I'm using this is a 1/4 inch soft V here. If you, the good thing about using a tool like this is it's easier to manipulate down the road if you decide that you don't like where that line's at. If you don't have a hard cut in the bottom. So if you're not quite as confident with your knife skills, I recommend maybe sneaking up on it with a tool, with a gouge, first and foremost. And then this side's going to be more straight up and down. And as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and cut behind that nose. Those smile lines originate from the top of the wing, not from the corner of the nose. I want to push those back a good ways. I'm actually going to grab a little bit larger tool, find my bigger soft V, because I need plenty of room there for the dental mound. So let's get that in there. Now I can go back and I'm going to follow that line down and relieve up to it. This side, do the same thing. I'm going to follow that plane that I set for the bottom of the nose down. I'm going to relieve up to it. And then we can round that dental mound over. And those jaws are a little square. They're going to be pronounced, but I don't want them quite that boxy. There we go. Need to pull that wing of the nose up just a touch more. Not a lot, but just a hair. Clean up the nose a bit here. Now we can use the knife, kind of make our lines here a little more permanent. Right here in this corner, as always, anytime you got a corner, it's a good spot to do a 3-cut chip cut. Just get a little bit more of a shadow in there. Just be mindful. Don't chase the splinter down in there too far. And this side, we're going to do the same thing. But we're going to make this line pretty straight. And we can give ourselves a chip cut back here in the corner of the nose. Again, just a spot for a shadow. I'm just rounding things over here, getting rid of some saw marks, and kind of getting the nose shaped like I want it. Got saw marks underneath here from the bandsaw. Just need to get rid of those. There we go. All right. So I can see now I've got the ears placed pretty far forward on this head. I want to back those up just a touch. Don't need to go too deep here. Just trying to get them even-ish. That'll give me room on the sides of the head for any details that I might need to put in. I'm going to take the Softy and just clean that out so I don't put a knife gouge, a knife mark in that valley. Do the same thing on this side. This is a little bit harder to get to, but we can do it about like that. Get my finger out of the way so I don't get myself again with this tool. Cut the crap out of myself a couple weeks ago with this particular tool. There we go. And of course, now we can see his eye line's going to be here. These ears are a little bit high. We can bring those down. There we go. This jaw should be a little bit thinner. And I'm going to thin or narrow down the temples a good bit right there. Yeah, there we go. All right. So let's give ourselves some eyes. Because of the expression I'm looking to make and make this guy a little grumpier, I want this eye line to be pretty much straight across. If I want him to be happier, I would actually angle up towards the center line a bit, kind of like so. That way the brows wouldn't be, the eyebrow ridge wouldn't be furrowed. But this guy is going to be a little grumpier looking. Again, we got a great big schnoz on this character. If you want to trim that nose down, take it down ever how much you want. Matter of fact, it might be a little bit large for what I'm seeing right now. I'm just going to trim off just a touch. We will shape that later on. But I want it to look a little broader instead of long, if that makes sense. And then we want to, let's get our center line down to the bridge of the nose, and then we want to isolate the bridge of that nose. Maybe about like that. For that, I'm going to use, on this small of a character, I'm going to use this 5mm Dockyard U-tool. And I'm just going to run right up the side of the bridge of that nose, and then I'm going to come straight across and take that chip out. And I'm trying to build some depth in this inside corner here.
go. And we can clean all that up later. We'll do the same thing on this side. And again, I'm going straight across right here because I want that eyebrow to kind of hang down over the eye for this guy, about like so. And we can take our knife, kind of clean that up. We may have a little more depth on the other side, so I'm gonna just even things up just a little bit. Got a piece in there that's not wanting to turn loose. There we go. Now I can take my gouge, clean those eye channels out a little bit more. This is the 3/8, number 9. Kind of see where we're heading. Let's taper those ears back down because I just saw how much they were sticking out there. There we go. And we can start shaping these ears now. I feel pretty confident about their location. So all I'm going to do is basically make a rough C shape, the letter C. So I'm going to knock the front and the back corners off, and I'm just kind of squaring up the top here a little bit. And on this other side, I'm going to do the same thing, try to get them in the ballpark of being even. That's pretty close. Bottoms of the ears, the earlobes are, of course, hanging way down. Kind of like that look on these old men. If you want to bring it up, by all means do it. And then right here in the corner of these lobes, or at the corner of these lobes, I'm going to just do a little chip cut. Pop that out so that jaw stands out just a little bit more. And we get the earlobes shaped up a little bit better. Do the same thing on the other side. We're just cleaning all that out. Just clean things up back here, even them up a little bit. There we go. As you can see, the neck is still pretty rough looking. So let's start getting that in order. This shirt collar is going to ride around. If you paid attention to the pattern, I've got a little bit of a mark here where the top of that collar is going to, or the back of that collar is going to land. It's going to be somewhere right about there. I'm just going to start with a soft V, just to get myself an indication of where everything goes. And I'm going to use the side of that tool to kind of shape the neck up, shape the neck around as I rough that in. let's grab this number 9 here. And we're just going to continue to shape the neck, get it round. And all this up underneath the ear needs to be cleaned out as well. Now we got it pretty well rounded. You can see I removed a lot of wood there. But I wanted the neck on this guy to be fairly thin. Again, I'm looking for exaggeration on this particular piece. If you don't want quite that much exaggeration, you know, basically what you're going to need to do is probably thin this head down more if you use that pattern that I shared. If not, you know, draw your own up. Just for just for some reference, I am not very good at drawing, like at all, but I can get myself in the ballpark. And that's all my patterns are, just give myself a general frame of reference to start with. And then I kind of work the pattern out from there with knives and gouges. I'm just trying to get the back of this head rounded over a little bit more. And let's kind of clean up right there where the back of the hair is going to be, or the hair on the back of the head. This is kind of a tough spot to grab. Don't really have the best hand hold. All right. So we've got things pretty well shaped up here. Let's get the back of this ear kind of cleaned out. There we go. There's a lot of cleanup yet to do on this piece. The one thing about doing these big exaggerated ears like this, it's a little bit harder to clean out underneath. I generally use the knife, but if you have, my V guys might be able to get under there. Yeah. Whatever tool you feel comfortable with, by all means use that. One thing about this neck being shaped the way it is a lot of end grain cutting to do there. So it can be a little aggravating just be careful with that. All right. Still a little boxy here. I'm just kind of cleaning things up. On the original piece, I actually trimmed a lot of wood from back here. Just one I like the shape. I think it made that exaggerated posture stand out even more. I probably won't take the time to do that for this video, but you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Just take that as far as you want to go with it. But I'm definitely not going to sit and make you guys sit and watch me do all of that, because that's kind of boring. But I do want to taper this upper torso even more to make this belly appear wider. And we're in the ballpark there. All right, let's finish up the face here. So actually, before I move on to the face, let's go ahead and outline where his hair is going to be. I'm going to give this guy the old horseshoe. Something like that. And I'm just going to use my saw, a small 1/4 inch, maybe if I can find it. There it is. Oh, laying right there. 1/4 inch soft V. Again, just kind of sight, make sure you got things fairly close to even. You could easily use a small veiner for this cut. I wouldn't use a dockyard because this end grain is fairly tough and those tools are somewhat delicate. And then we need to round that over. You can do that with a knife, but I found this eraser, and actually I guess I could use my smaller version. Find the eraser easier to use in that area. And I won't bore you guys with carving the hair on here. If you've seen any of my prior videos on carving beards or hair or anything like that, you can go by that. If you hadn't, check them out, please. And this guy, I want to give him a pretty healthy brow ridge here. I'm just going to mark that in with that soft V, and then I'm going to use the knife just to pull some of that back. And of course, I want to get rid of saw marks. There we go. right tool. Let's clean out those eye channels just a little bit more. All right. So let's give them some eyes. Now I want the top of this eye to be right underneath that bright ridge. And then I'm gonna give them some pretty generous bags under here. I'm gonna bring that back in that neighborhood. This eye is gonna be shaped slightly different because of his expression. But again, I'm gonna give him some pretty generous bags under there. Maybe not quite that big. There we go. I'm gonna bring that a little bit straighter. All right, let's grab the right tool here. I'm gonna start with this 3mm dockyard. And I'm just gonna scoop right underneath that bag. We'll go back to this outside corner, and I'm just going to grab right there and take it straight across, like so. Let's scoop underneath this bag here. We can grab right there in that corner and go. We're not going to go quite as straight on this one. We'll arch it up just a little bit, just because I'm going to have this eye, his right eye, opened up just a bit more. Clean out some of the hangnails in there. Just kind of smooth things over. You can always go back with your knife, kind of smooth that over. All right, and I'm going to, let's do this first. Let's sketch in. So I want that top eyelid to pretty much be hidden on this guy. He's going to have kind of that hooded old man eye look. And I'm going to give him a pretty good squint on that side. Kind of see where I'm going there? So I'm going to stick right in that corner. I'm going to bring that all the way around. And we can clean out from underneath there. I'm gonna go right in that corner there. I'm getting pretty good depth there in the top and the bottom corners. And I'm gonna go right beside the bridge of that nose, and then I'm gonna pop that little chip out. And we'll follow that lower eyelid all the way around. And then right here in this corner, we're going to do our 3-cut. All right, so we got that eye pretty well shaped up now. Let's do the same thing on this side. Again, I'm just gonna carefully skim that back, and now we're gonna go right in those corners. We're gonna stick that knife tip in there pretty good ways. And then we're gonna come right up the side of the bridge of the nose. And I need to clean that out. Now we can take those chips out. That one still hung up in there. Gotta get to where I can see. There we go. And of course, if you're going to be painting the eye, it's really helpful to take your time and make this as smooth as possible, just because it makes painting so much easier. If you've got facets in there, it's much, much harder. And of course, if you got a squinted eye like this, it makes it hard. That's why I like a good fine tip knife to just kind of work my way around. Now I'm gonna go right in the corner of those eyes, right on the outside. I'm gonna tuck that bottom eyelid underneath the top, like that. Get a good shadow in there. Do the same thing on this side. There we go. So for his mouth, he's going to be kind of frowning, but I want to open up. Let's see. Let's bring that down just a touch more. I want to open up this side where we can put a big stogie in there, maybe like that. I'm just going to basically do the chip cut we do in all the corners here. Just open that area up, that part of the mouth. And I'll get it cleaned out as best I can. It's really not super critical that you get every little chip out of there, because we're going to be stuffing a stogie in there anyways. And I want to make sure this frown is good and exaggerated here. So I'm going to pop that corner out on this side. And I've got just a little scrap chunk of wood. All I'm gonna do is kind of start rounding it over. Shaping it up. And you can, if you have a specific type of cigar that you want to use, by all means do that. I'm just kind of giving the impression of a basic cigar shape here. But I'm going to taper the end to where it goes right into that corner. What I'm trying to do is get as much surface contact between the inside of the mouth and this stogie as possible. That way, when I go to glue it in, I've got a good good glue line there. And of course, this one's going to be, he's got this one down to a nub. Maybe a little bit more off there. That's still pretty big. And actually, I'm gonna take a little bit more off the back side here. And it's just kind of playing around with things till you get it fit, get the look that you want out of it. It's kind of hard to show much of this, so in general, I'm just getting this piece round-ish into the size that I want. It's hard to hold on to when it gets this small as well. So just be careful with it. I like to keep little pieces of scrap wood handy just for stuff like this. Just various accoutrements to add on to a piece just to make it look a little better. There it is. There we go. Now let's shape this bottom lip. I'm going to grab this 5mm dockyard, and I want that lip to stand out a pretty good ways. I want them to have good hangdog, droopy bottom lip look. And then we can actually, let's grab this 3/8 and shape that chin up a little bit more. We can knock off any hard corners that we've got there with the knife. Pop that chin out a little bit more. Kind of round that over. There we go. All right, now we need to give them some nostrils. I'm gonna go back, go with this 4mm dockyard here. I kind of split out a little bit there. That's fine. We can shape that up with a knife. What I'm aiming to do is make sure I can see, if I look at it from the profile, I can see the septum sticking down there. That might be a little bit small. Let's grab a little bit larger tool there. We can shape that up a little bit better. Now we can clean all that up. And then from here, it's pretty much whatever details you want to add. You know, if you want to really wrinkle the bags underneath his eyes up a little bit, add some wrinkles here for crow's feet. You can also do that with the knife, just with some little V-cuts, like so. That's more or less it. Well, of course, I'll add some glue to make that stay in place. Now it's just a matter of getting these details added to his shirt. There's plenty of videos on how to add a collar to them. You can add buttons, whatever you'd like. We may do another video that showcases some of that, but I really just wanted to get the gist of the overall shape of this old man in this video. That way we don't take up too much of your time. But I do appreciate those of you who've tuned in this long. As always, if you would complete your social media ritual, do the like, share, subscribe thing, I greatly appreciate it. As always, any pattern that I use is available in my Patreon. The link is below. Once again, there's no expectation of any payment for those. It's there for the taking. If you want to leave me $1 or $2, that's greatly appreciated. But There's no expectation of that. But until next time, keep on chipping away, keep your knife in the wood, and more than anything, enjoy the ride. You know, that's the great thing about this carving journey. I've been at it for about 5 years now, and I still feel like an absolute rookie, and that probably never will change. But the one thing that I will say is I've immensely enjoyed every second of it. I made the comment to a friend a while back that I've enjoyed every cut that I've ever made. I've never been satisfied with a single one, just because I know better is possible. So I'm going to keep pushing for that. Hope you do the same. Step outside of your comfort zone and find out what you're capable of. But as always, enjoy it. So until next time, keep chipping away, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.